First counterattack of the new year is here. We've got all the details on a brand new National League starting on February 6th, plus the Team USA men and women in action earlier this month, ODP events taking place, Dare to Dream, and much more, all on a brand new counterattack. Hey everyone, Greg Mescall here. Thanks for joining us on the counterattack. A lot to get to with our first new episode of 2026. So much water polo happening here in the month of January. We start first with the National League, brand new logo, expansion of teams, and much more. We'll talk with NL Commissioner Tom Davis in our big conversation later on in the show. But here's what you need to know. The National League now growing from just Southern California to SoCal and NorCal, plus including 18U club play. So now you've got two divisions in Southern California. They'll get started February 6th through the 8th. There'll be 4 weekends in SoCal. Then 2 weekends in NorCal. The NorCal division, just one division of teams. That'll get started at the University of the Pacific in the middle of February. Meanwhile, 18U club play has been added as well. There'll be SoCal and NorCal competition. Important to note, the 18U clubs, they will not cross over with the National League. So 2 concurrent leagues running here under the National League umbrella. All roads lead to the National League Championship the first weekend of May. You'll have your traditional National League Championship, and there'll also be an 18U Championship event. Live coverage of all the NL action right here on Overnght Live Stats from 6-8 Sports, and we'll talk through all the other details here, some of the new teams, some of the exciting things coming up with Tom, but looking forward to getting things underway. Just a couple of weeks now, February 6th, the National League gets started. From there, let's switch gears over to Team USA. The national teams, they were in action. The Team USA men, they hosted Australia to kick off 2026, and they split a 2-game set. Team USA coming out super strong with a 17-9 victory to get things started before falling in the second match. Take a look back with some sights and sounds from those 2 matches between Team USA and Australia. Like we never left, back here, USA Water Polo, the men's national team, gearing up for the start of a 2-game set with Australia.
These boys are locked in. It's a long-time history of 2 non-European powerhouses doing their best to compete with those European foes. Non-European countries can get together and get better. It is now a new 2026. 2028 is not that far away.
It's game time.
This crowd's giving their flowers to Team USA. Great job tonight in their preparations here in the start of 2026.
A decisive 17-9 victory for Team USA.
It's great to be with the guys. Such a high-level team and high-level training all week, so to be able to come here and play against Australia is amazing.
Our team chemistry is honestly just growing a lot. Over the past, our training trip in Spain to the last week of training with Australia, our chemistry has been getting a lot better. So through every aspect of our game, transition, defense, offense, it's all kind of coming together, which is really good to see.
Preparation has been really good, and the defense was also helping me out a lot, but me personally, the preparation has been good on our side, so yeah, felt super good. During training, we've been scoring a lot of goals, but giving up a lot of goals. The score doesn't surprise me with how many we put up, but it's been really good with the defense we put up today, so very proud about that.
The pipeline that USA Water Polo has created has really formed a deeper bond between a lot of these guys that makes it easier to kind of connect with after you go play abroad or go play on different colleges. It just makes it easier to come back and really makes the process a lot smoother.
Overall, a great night under the lights for Team USA in their preparations.
We are back at it tomorrow. Mount Sac out in Walnut, Mount San Antonio College, 1 p.m. Pacific. Last night, Team USA dominant in a win over Australia. You played in a lot of series like this. What does Team USA hope to do today to try to close things out?
Yeah, they're going to try to do a lot of what they did yesterday. I think it's really important to see how they bounce back after a late night. An earlier game today, that was always important. So looking forward to how they come out and also see how Australia bounces back as well.
13-10. The Aussies take the win.
Team USA, I think they got a lot of opportunities with some young players. You didn't see some of the bigger names playing. And I think that's really important. You learn a lot from these exhibition matches.
Just kind of tell me from your perspective the positives from this week of training with Australia in these 2 games.
it's great just to build together as a team. You know, we don't get that many opportunities with everyone playing with their own like colleges and respective clubs. So it's just great to like have the ability to like, you know, come together and play as a team.
Yeah, I think it's been super beneficial with the team. Anytime we get to play together against another opponent is always beneficial. And I think we're growing as a team each week, each practice, and I think we're growing more close and just better as a group.
From the men, we turn to the Team USA women. They opened up 2026 with a trip to Europe, a couple of weeks of common training, first in the Netherlands with the Dutch, and then over to Hungary with the Hungarian national team. The good news for Team USA, 4 straight wins. They pick up 2 wins over the Netherlands to get things started. Then they move over to Hungary. Thrilling finish there. The first of 2 matches against the Hungarians. It goes to a shootout. Team USA battling back. Emily Osmus gets a late goal in the 4th to force the shootout, and then she delivers the deciding goal in the shootout. They then wrapped up play a couple of days later with another victory. And all in all, a good start for Team USA. Now, for many of those athletes, they'll head back to their college teams. The rest, they've got club commitments. So there's a good chance for Adam Krikorian and company to meet up, get a couple of weeks of training in before the heart of the women's college season, and then other club play resumes with the European Championships, typically halting club play in early January. So a good start for both USA squads. Now we bring things back here domestically. Dare to Dream already up and running. This event, the 10 and under competition, continues to grow throughout the country. Weekends in California, this past weekend already happening in Moraga, in Northern California, down in Chula Vista, in Southern California, continuing this weekend with more competition all the way into February, going all across the country, Midwest, Pacific Northwest, out to Hawaii, East Coast, down in Florida, Texas. The list goes on. You get a good look here at all the competitions for Dare to Dream. Wishing everyone all the best. A real focus on just having fun, enjoying the team aspect of water polo, and hopefully getting an experience that'll only make you want to keep playing water polo for years to come. So we're really excited about all these Dare to Dream events rolling out here over the next few weeks, and wishing all the best to everyone taking part. And now we switch gears again. We told you it was busy. Olympic development program. So much ODP happening. Our friends from Game On Live Studio, they had it covered wall to wall. First, the ODP California evaluation event for the boys side. Girls one coming soon. That took place to get things going in January at a couple of facilities in Southern California. And then this past weekend in Texas, it was the ODP regional event. Remember, these events, they are critical in helping on that ODP pathway to the national championships, which are coming not too long from now. So before that, ODP Girls California regional event, and then we'll get into our national championships. But again, goals, they have you covered. So check out all the coverage on Game On Live Studio. And again, sending our best wishes to all the athletes as they work their way through this ODP pipeline, headed towards the national championships, and then for some, ultimately on to NTSC, and then a spot with Team USA. And we turn the page to women's college water polo. The season getting underway this past weekend in Urs, Fresno State hosting their annual Polo Palooza. Despite the elements, it seemed like it was a great weekend there in the Central Valley. A lot of fog. Had to get the heavy jackets out if you're going to be there to watch the action, but a lot of the top teams in the country competing. How about this finish? Overnght had coverage all weekend long. We've got to show you at the very end of Fresno State and San Jose State. This one goes into overtime, and check out the game winner from Charlie Munoz.
Cranley, the Munoz shoots, scores at the buzzer! The freshman gets the win, a 15-14 thriller in overtime.
Awesome finish there as we head into our college scoreboard. More wins for the Bulldogs. They take out Michigan 11-10. Big early season victory here for Cal over Hawaii, 14-9. Those two are so often bunched up in that conversation around the final at-large selection if it comes to that. So put a circle around this victory at this point in the year, even in the first weekend. Indiana, a nice win for the Hoosiers over UC Irvine, 8-7. And then elsewhere, Stanford getting their season underway, a win over UC Davis, 20-7 for the defending NCAA champions. And now on to our big conversation. As we told you, the National League back, bigger, better than ever. Who else to take us through it but the commish, Tom Davis. He was our guest this week on the Counterattack. Perhaps the most thankless job in water polo. No, I'm kidding. The National League Commissioner, Tom Davis. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to be with you.
Tom, what a time here for the National League. You often hear things advertised as bigger and better than ever, but for the National League, it's actually quite true. Quite a leap forward here in 2026. New logo, more teams, more locations. What has you excited about the National League here in 2026?
I mean, really all of it. From obviously it's been around for a while. Last year was my first year being involved with it, which was great. There was a lot of growing pains, I think, for myself and for the league and for everybody involved with some of the new collegiate rules. And I think in year one, for me at least, there was a lot of learning the lay of the land, doing a lot of foundational work, and just getting things in place so that the league would be stable moving forward, which I think that we did. I think that everybody saw what it could be and the potential for growth. And I think that, I'm most excited, one, that a lot of the issues that we kind of put to bed last year, we don't have to deal with again. Everybody understands how this thing is going to work moving forward. Very, very excited about the NorCal expansion with the men's teams. I think that that's something that we wanted to do last year. It was a little bit ambitious in terms of both, our aspirations and, the ability for those teams to participate. So I think that now that we've had, a solid 12 months under our belt and we've spent time working with those teams, it's going to be really, really exciting for Northern California to have this division.
Yeah, a lot of different pieces of expansion here. We start first, I guess, with what I would call the traditional National League, and then there's the 18U component. But talking first National League, there has been times in the past where it was in NorCal. There was a Vegas weekend many years ago, but it has been primarily Southern California. Recently, that's what it was last year. This year, we add a couple of weekends in Northern California. So 4 Southern California weekends, 2 Northern California weekends, and then that all leads into our National League Championship in early May. How did you go about structuring the different divisions for SoCal 2 and SoCal 1 and NorCal? And what was the response like when you opened up the opportunity for more teams to compete, including those in NorCal?
Yeah, so the response was great. And we had been in conversations with those NorCal teams since the conclusion of last year's season. So we knew that they were all very interested. They had expressed interest in having their own division up there. In terms of structuring the NorCal division, it was really simple. There's a limited amount of teams up there, so we just put them all in the same division, and everybody will play everybody once over 2 weekends. In Southern California, what we did was we tried, we have a committee that works on this. We tried to split the teams evenly. So you'll take your teams that are, your more traditional powerhouse on the men's side, like LAAC and NIAC, and you'll split them. You'll split Trojan and Mission or UCLA, and then you just kind of work your way down the list. We have 2 pipeline teams. We'll split them. So it became pretty simple, given the parity kind of in each tier, to just look at it and split it pretty much evenly. With the way that the league runs in NorCal, everybody will just play through conference. There won't be any non-conference games because of the limited weekends that we had up there. In Southern California, everybody will play through their division or their conference in the first, two weekends. And then from there, we'll introduce non-conference games to get these teams some additional play dates.
And then amongst all of those teams, what's the process to qualify for the National League Championship in early May?
So anyone that participates in the league as a full member has the ability to come to championships. And we resolve that by typically with our schedule for championship weekend, we do a play-in day on Friday, similar to what they do in NCAA basketball, right? You have some teams that are on the bubble, they play in, and then you go to, I think this year we'll go to probably a traditional 16-team bracket moving forward from there.
And then the other piece that has a lot of people talking, the 18U piece, as if you didn't need more work, right? No, but seriously, to be able to add that element of club play, a pilot program here in year one, this is another area there's been a lot of interest, and it sounds like if everything goes well this year, something that could grow moving forward.
Yeah, this is something that, just was the idea of a bunch of coaches and administrators that we had been talking about, the idea of coming up with something that would, integrate vertically with the men's league. And could that be done? And we still don't know because it's a pilot. We're just going to try it. We're going to see if it works. But the idea is that these teams will play in and around the men's game. It'll be great for fan experience on both sides. We know that some of our most loyal fans are our youth and high school fans. And we know that getting those fans to these games, we're hopeful that they're going to stick around and also support the men's league in a meaningful way, and vice versa. Fans of the men's game will stick around and see some of these up and comers. It is something that we originally we're going to just do something regional, and it still is quasi-regional because we have to pilot it. We have to see if this is something that is even feasible before we open it up and we come up with a true application process to be involved like we have on the men's side.
Totally. And look, I'm certain there are teams outside of California that would love to have a bigger role in this, but it sounds like maybe you all were trying to be a bit cognizant of travel costs and scheduling and things like that for something that you hope works, but hasn't really been proven out.
Well, and the model at the 18U, unfortunately, does not lend itself to teams not being able to participate every weekend. So, that in terms of being cognizant of travel costs, the burden that we put on a lot of these families with the cost of our sport and travel as it is, we didn't think that it was, fiscally responsible to really reach outside of the state and expect a team, let's say from Texas, right, to fly in for 4 weekends every other weekend with the expense that would be required, because the way that the 18U league works is a little bit different than the men's side, where it's more of a like a Premier League soccer format where everybody plays everybody one time and that's it. So it's not like there's divisions or conferences. It's just a straight playthrough. And then from there, we'll see the final tournament.
As you gear up here, February 6th, coming up quick, what are some other things that fans, people that have admired the league for some time, that they can look forward to? Any other changes or things that have you fired up as you kind of get ready to launch this thing here in 2026?
I mean, there are things that we had talked about implementing, and we're still not sure if it's going to be able to happen this year just because of logistics. One of the things that we thought would be exciting, for the fans, is to be able to get some commentary from officials mid-game on some of the big calls. So we're in discussions with, can we mic up officials at certain moments in the game to have them explain what's going on to the fans, very similar to what they do in football, right?
Sure.
So that's something that we're looking at. We're in discussions. We're really all about trying to now improve fan experience. So, is there something that can be done with food and beverage? That would be amazing. And we're in talks with that. I know, our CEO, Jamie, came from volleyball, where fan experience is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's something that we would like to steal some of that for our fans and give them, a desire to show up to these games, not just because we're putting a great product in the pool, which we are, but because there's something going on around that product that's compelling, that will pull you away from the other things you could do on a weekend.
One of the cool storylines from last year was watching Mission/UCLA run through the National League and then take that energy into the college season and win another NCAA championship. And while we do have non-college teams and non-college age athletes competing as well, from your perspective as the commissioner, how cool was it to see the National League kind of be that first step on a special journey for those guys?
I think it was amazing, and I'm hopeful that they would say, in some way, some, small or maybe meaningful way, that the competition that they got in this league helped lead to the success they had this fall. I think that it's something that was not really available to these teams in the offseason prior. And, who knows? I mean, who knows who we'll see come out of it this year? But hopefully another storyline like that, where we have a team that demonstrates success in this league, and then that carries over into the collegiate season.
And just from my own experience, talking to some of those guys, the Dodds and Nate Tauscher, guys that played on that UCLA roster, they really highlighted the opportunity to play together as a team, just getting more games as a unit, even if it's that far before the season. You just can't replace that opportunity, and clearly served them well going there down to the end. The other, I think, big buzzworthy piece of news from last year's National League was LAAC adding some of these legends, Filipovic, Avarga. Do you get a sense, is that inspiring more of the same this year? Do you have any early indication if teams will try and go out and maybe pick up some true stars and legends that people weren't expecting to be in the NL?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the reality is that LA is always going to go look for some of those stars. That's just kind of been their brand. I think it's great for them. It's great for the league. Now, will it lead or can it lead to a championship? I'm not sure, because there's certainly a team component to this that, the teams, I think, that have the ability to train together more frequently will always have an advantage, just because of chemistry and understanding of play styles of the athletes in the water, right? Certainly, as a promoter of the league, I think it's very exciting when we can get some of those names over here. It makes for compelling storytelling. I'm hopeful that some of the other men's teams will go do that. I think that would be great. The more big names we can add, whether they're successful in their, chase for a title or not, it brings people to watch the sport. It gives us something over here, a way to watch those stars in the European League that we don't typically get up close and personal.
And just don't forget, right, the full schedule available now at usawaterpolo.org. If you can't be at the venues to watch Overnght with live streaming, 6-8 with live sports, one of Tom's jobs to also wrangle all these facilities, a lot of pools to host a lot of water polo. But SoCal Weekend 1 coming up here February 6, 7, 8. We talked about a couple of the clubs that are coming back that had a big impact last year. You talk with all these teams. Who are some new faces, some new teams at the National League level people will see this year that you're hearing from their coaches and their athletes that they're just so excited to be a part of this?
You know, I think the biggest one in Southern California is South County. Christian Macias runs that club, and they wanted in pretty badly. In the off season, we were happy that we could make it work. I don't know the makeup of the roster because I haven't seen any of the rosters yet. We won't get that for another, probably about another week. But I hear from some of the people that know the rosters that his roster could be, pretty formidable, which will be great. I'm always excited to see, who Nyack is going to bring. That's always a fun one. And of course, LA, right? For me, I'm excited to see what some of the NorCal teams do because we just haven't seen that previously. So, I'm excited to catch some of the games in the NorCal division and see how they fit in and the teams up there that are going to come down to the championships. Can they disrupt the Southern California region? I think that there's definitely some contenders up there for the championship.
That first weekend in Northern California, UOP and Stockton, they have such a passion for water polo and hosting. And so that you can be sure it'll be a great environment to kind of kick off the NorCal division. One thing we didn't cover, we talked about kind of the path for the National League to the championship. Where do the 18U teams fit in when it comes to a championship? That's
a great question. So it's going to be the same path as the men. Anyone that is in the league will be able to come down and participate in the championship if they would like to. And it's going to be a very similar format, I believe. It's going to be a play-in on day one, and then we're going to go to a 16-team format after that. Maybe an obvious one, but just to clear up, the 18U and the National League, there'll be no crossover. Those teams will never play each other. No, there is no crossover. And in fact, you'll see a lot of the top youth players that would, normally play in an 18U division will be pulled up for different things. A lot of last year we saw a lot of the future incoming freshmen got pulled up with their college teams who were playing as clubs, right? That's one example. Or we have we have a youth and a USAB team playing. We anticipate that some of those 18U players are going to get pulled up to play on the pipeline team. So, I don't expect the 18U teams to look the same from week to week, or even within a weekend, depending on availability of those athletes. Although we know some of these 18U squads, I'm sure they're confident. They feel like they can hang with some of the National League guys. I'm sure they do. But we don't want to, one of the things is we don't want to discourage the opportunity for these players to be pulled up on the men's side if it's appropriate and if there are teams that want to pull them up. So, that's kind of been the theme for development at this level. And that's part of the piloting of this program is to see can it be sustainable? Last thing for you, Tom, as you kind of finished the gauntlet last year and that championship ends there at Mount Sac, and you kind of reflect back on the season, what gave you the most pride about being involved with the National League last year? Yeah, I think where we left, as an organization, where we left our relationship with all of the teams and the athletes and the feeling that they came away with, for me, was bigger than any result or, any large crowd or anything like that. Was just that the participants, the coaches, the players, the administrators felt like we put a good product out and they felt like it benefited them. For me, at the end of the day, that's the biggest win. Excellent. Tom Davis, National League Commissioner. Thanks for all your work and excited to see things get up and running here February 6th. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you. Once again, big thanks to Tom Davis for joining us. A lot of heavy lifting there to get the National League up and running here, especially with all the expansion. So again, looking forward to seeing the games get underway on February 6th. And now time for our Malmston goal of the week. And it's a goalie goal here. We go back to Polo Palooza. Check out Jasmine Higgs, the keeper for the Hoosiers, going full tank.
That's going to go into the back of the net. How about Indiana? Jasmine Higgs. Look at that arm. Looks like Fernando Mendoza's arm out there.
Gotta love a goalie goal. We often get a request for more goalie coverage. That's usually on the saves, but if a goalie's gonna make one from long range, we're gonna show that as well. Don't forget, you can share some of your favorite highlights right here to us or overnight. Send us a DM or tag us at USAWP or at On Water Polo, and we'll share what you're sharing right here as Rose looking for great highlights for our Malmston goal of the week or maybe a goalie save of the week. And let's, as we wrap things up, take a look at what's ahead on the calendar. as you might expect, a lot of Dare to Dream. These events are rolling out this weekend. Salt Lake City and Western Springs, Illinois, end of the month, to Texas. University Place, Washington, and Miami. Early February, Wissahick in Pennsylvania. They've become such a great host for water polo. And then wrapping it up middle of February out in Honolulu. And then don't forget about that ODP California Girls Evaluation event to close things out at the end of February in Irvine. Well, that is going to do it for a jam-packed first episode back here to start off 2026. Thanks so much for joining us. And don't forget, when you're on the counterattack, look weak side.